clap your hands, shake a little bit. Stop and clap your hands, shake a little bit. Stop and clap your hands, shake a little bit. Stop and clap your hands. We'll walk hand in hand, slow dance in the sand. I'm telling you, man, it don't get better than this. We hear the music playing, it sounds so far away. Our own dancing display.
It don't get better than this.
Those stars in the sky don't compare to your eyes. 'Cause nothing gets better. I'll get a kiss from your lips, I can't resist. Man,
It don't get better than this.
we hear the music play, it sounds so far away. Our own dancing display.
It don't get better than this. Hey guys. I am getting things prepared for today's stream. My oh shit, that doesn't work on this, does it? I gotta click it. My PA got on my ass about getting these things recorded. So I'm doing more grab popcorn. Here's Katie Cat Blanky. Hey Mary. Voice on point. Baby, Kabu, hello. Scotty, hello. Eleanor bot. I didn't know you could show up in here, but hello. Sinex, hello. Just another Cisco, hello. Carter, hello. It's ya boy, Vex, hello. Kathy Evans, hello. Joseph of London, hello. 15 years being here for the verbal horror, hello. Prodmog, hello. Stupid Blazers, hello. Just Radio, true, hello. Jonathan, yeah. Cod Police. Hey, it's everybody. Big fan, huge. Silence, Luna. Today's a work stream. I've got 2 stories. We're going to see how long these go. I'm pretty sure the first one's going to be decently long. The second one, I'm not so sure about. I had it open. It doesn't seem like it's, like, forever. Like, it's not that long. Which I will have to see. Okay. I don't know, quick. I'll make sure I got paid. Did I get paid? Let's go. Somebody sent me money. Okay. That's good news. That's good news. Creator outreach. That's fine. I got distracted by emails. Habby. Okay, Habby. I'm doing my work. I promise you I'm doing my work. Newport Rav, hello. Mr. B. Hayes, hello. Emily's Clone, hello. And Original Emily, hello. Paragon Points. Your to know goes better than mine. God, I hope so. Why are you double talking? Am I double talking? Does it show up twice? Do you have it open twice? Yes, I'm doing my work. I have a couple of emails that I should be going through right now. What is it? I didn't think it was that old. I checked this one since I got home. Ah, here we go. All right, the thing's gotta shut up. Get out of here, you. Okay. That's interesting. I don't know where my email has gone to. This is going to be a much, this is going to be a much shorter stream than I expected. Oh, here we go. Oh, he he named it something very weird. Hey, Dover, how's your day, baby? It's good. I'm doing good. Sinex. So it shows what if you scroll down on Twitch, it will show you what mic I use for recording. Like, so if you listen to the podcast, you listen to YouTube, it shows you which one that is, which is a AKG. What is it? CO1. It's an AKG microphone. 214. It's 214. CO1 is my last one. 214. So I only use a single-sided. And then I use for this, what you guys are currently hearing me on, is like some bullshit HyperX streaming mic. I honestly think it was way overpriced too. It's like one that has like RGBs on it. It's not that great, but I mean it works for this. Because I need to have multiple microphones. One microphone has to be recorded on my left side, and that goes to the Audacity, which you'll see on that strip on the back there. And then the other one, which you hear, is going to be coming off of. It's going to be coming through other stuff. So we need to do debuts tomorrow. Book is making the rounds. Like the stories they've read. That's the advance. Oh, and let's see what we get. This is not the stories. Oh, I get 2 stories to pick from. Okay. Yeah, I can live with these. Is this same author for both? Or is it, this is a compilation? Still, oh yeah, solo. Okay, Alex Grass. For a second, when I looked at his, not that one. I looked at his, like the credits and stuff from the book. It looked like this was from something else, but I think these are, yeah, these are quotes from beta readers, advanced readers. So this is by Alex Grass, on his, recent book that will be out tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and put this down inside of the chat. This book is available. This is Infernal Tramps, Tales of Weird Terror. It'll be available to pre-order right now, but also it is going to be releasing on all platforms tomorrow on Amazon. This is a cool landing page there on their website. There's the Amazon link if you guys are interested in doing this. This is one of those times, and I've brought this up like a lot on like social media. I bring it up on the channel every once in a while too. But like the channel, and the podcast, they are built for independent authors. So if you guys ever see the like, if you guys are writers and you have a book coming out and you're like, hey, I want free press for my book, because that's really fucking hard to do when you're an indie author, you can just send it to me. I am actually very happy to put those things out for you. I'm happy to be able to promote those books. Like, unpublished and self-published authors are literally what I do this for. So if you guys like write your own books or do things like that, you're welcome to send them to me, and then I will do promotions for them. You don't have to give me a story even. Alex was really cool to be able to give me 2 stories to pick from this book. But you guys don't have to do that. I am happy to be able to do pre-roll and post-roll ads for you for your book. No cost, because it's just cool. So, yeah. Promoting you guys, promoting writers is what I do. Let me figure this shit out. Australia? Hey, how's it going? Let's see what we say. Oh, God. I don't want to see that happy. Alright, let me get this story ready to go. Get my audio stuff ready to go to make sure it actually records. Because I swear to God, if I get another problem with this thing recording it wrong. Hello, this is me recording my voice. Doing it at multiple levels, and high levels, and low levels. Trying to get multiple voices out so that it can record at an appropriate size. Appropriate volume. Okay, so it looks like we're getting good. We're getting levels. Testing. Ba 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 ba. I'm gonna turn you up a little bit. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Okay. I want you guys to know also, please. You all have a very important job to do here. Okay. You see the you see that little the gray bar back there where you can see my levels, right? If for some reason I want you to read them. Oh, send it to me, Happy. I'll read it right now. Shokon shut down. Ah, dude, yeah. 2020 did a number on so many conventions. It's sad times. What was I saying? Fuck. As you guys see that gray bar back there, and it does not have any fucking things on it. It doesn't show up. If it's just a flat line, it is your responsibility. It is your chat, your responsibility to tell me about that. Because if it turns out that it's not there, that it doesn't show up, and I haven't recorded anything, I'm gonna crash out. And when I crash out, I'm gonna stop reading stories, potentially forever, out of pure embarrassment. So it's your responsibility to tell me if that's on there. When the story is up, I cannot see anything else but text and the chat. So it is your job to tell me if something has fucked up. Okay? Okay, we're all on the same page for that. Right? We're all in agreement. You'll be in trouble if you stop, Spike. I won't be in trouble. You'll be in trouble. Because it's... if I stop recording forever, you're out of a job. Hey, what am I agreeing on? You know what? Zuriel, don't even worry about it. You're agreeing. You've accepted responsibility. This is your responsibility now. If nothing's recorded and I quit reading forever, this is your responsibility. You all have to tell me. You have to tell me if nothing's recording. That's the agreement. Yuffers, got it. Yeah, cool. This be a waveform or just a gray bar? Just a gray bar. Look, this is what it'll look like. When I'm recording, this is what it'll look like. You see that? Yeah. It should have those little blue waves. There should be a waveform back there. If there's not a waveform, if it ever just goes completely fucked up, don't do that. Stun Spider, thank you for the follow. Let's see. I'm gonna delete that for now because I don't want my fucking audio editor to see that. Oh yeah, Stun Spider, thank you for the sub. Hello all, Max. Hello. Oh hey, Goodwin. Reacted my newest story. Oh goddamn it, Late Night Laundry. Really can't wait to hear you eventually check them out and everything. You know what? Maybe I'll throw you up first. I have a story a friend of mine sent me also that I want to be able to record. But I have two stories that need to go up this week. I could do yours and I could do theirs first of next week. Hey, you're not recording, thank you. That if it goes up next week, I think it'll be okay. So I will maybe see that one next. We'll see. No waveform equal bad. No waveform equal bad. Correct. I was into Baraska before this year, and I've followed MCP since. Yo, dude, if you missed out on Baraska, you check it out. Check out Baraska. Baraska is like not just a great story. I think Baraska is also one of my favorite stories I got to work on. I love stories that let me actually play characters, and that one let me play characters like a lot of characters over time. I think that was really cool for me. Like I got to play characters as they grew up, so like as an actor, like it really felt good to be able to like see how their voice would develop, how they would develop, and things like that. And like especially Sam, because like he became such like a like, so depressed with everything in his life, and it just became really good to be able to like play something in that way. It was really cool. Alternate reality stories. Are you talking about Mr. Outlaw? Because he did a lot of those. Like I lived in an alternate reality, and I think that was a really good series. That was a fun series of people. That was a fun series of people. A fun series of stories. One of my favorites. One of the first series I listened to. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I've done a few stories from CK Walker. I haven't done Whitefall. I'd have to reach out to them again and ask for that one. But I have not done that one. I didn't look. I know I did promos for their book when it came out, but yeah. But yeah, my best friend lived in an alternate reality. That was Mr. Outlaw. What's really cool. So I have a playlist of all the Mr. Outlaw stories that I've done. According to him, all of them are connected. So all of those alternate realities are a mishmash of like one set of things. So if you liked those stories, I suggest you really check out more from just Mr. Outlaw to see what he gets. Do I have a mentor? I don't know. If there's anybody that I've ever talked with about work, about life and everything, it's definitely been Autumn. Autumn Ivy. She is a incredible voice actress, for one, voice actor. And she's also just really kind. Don't let her know that I said that about her, though. She'll be like, "Bruh, dragged here by Cal, help him trapped." Hell yeah. I was told, Azuriel, I was told that you didn't know that, like, me and Cal were friends beforehand. Creepy AI stories. I've done a few that I thought were pretty good, like, creepy, like, AI is the enemy stories. I think it was called Riot 13 was a really good one. I've done a few of them. This is pretty early AI stuff. Back when it was just pretty much the machine is evil type of thing. I haven't done any in a hot minute. I feel like also like they do kind of get a little preachy, and I don't want to get to that. Like I'm not specifically like, oh yeah, AI is the future, we should all trust AI, because you shouldn't. You really shouldn't. But at the same time, I'm not trying to be preachy about anything really on the channel. So yeah, to the nearest gas station. Ha. Huh? Why are you here? Quantum entanglement? That'd be cool. I've known him a while now, and I hopped in here, and he was just here. Yeah. Cal and I have been friends for, like, God. I've known Cal for probably, like, 11 years? Something like that? Yeah. Okay. Let me actually record. Actually do stuff. Again, your responsibilities. Hey there, kids, it's me. And before we get started on tonight's story, I just want to let you know about Infernal Tramps, Tales of Weird Terror by Alex Grass. It's going to be available starting July 15th, 2026. If you like tonight's story, tonight's author, Alex Grass, has a book that is going to be releasing. It's got some really good, praise from beta readers, some advanced readers. It is fantastic. The artwork also is fantastic in it. And if you guys listen on for the rest of tonight, you're going to love this story just as much as I do. And now, it will be available on Amazon, as well as the author's site as well. You can find those in the description down below. And now, on to tonight's story. Yummy waveform. Good. Like I usually say during the streams, I can see the chat. I will not be, like, I can always, like, read the chat. I can see what you guys say. Can't respond to the chat all the time, because if I do, it'll just be constantly stopping the story, and my editor will be upset about that, so, yeah. There was a man waiting for me on my front porch when I got home from work. He waved at me as I walked up my driveway to my house. I had a strange feeling about him because he was a strange-looking man. There are strangers And then there are strange strangers, and there's a world of difference between them. That I waved back. Good evening, I said. And to you, the man said. His head was shaped like an egg. It was almost 1/3 taller than the average man's head. Can I help you? I said. Let me not be rude, he said. It is my pleasure to make your acquaintance in the way of comedy and fellowship. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Roger. He held out for a handshake. I shook his hand. His fingers were long and cold and bumpy. A strange stranger's strange head and strange hands. Roger, I'm Mary Ellen, I said. Let me also not be rude, but still be direct. I've had a long day at work. Maybe you could come right out and tell me what you're doing here and how I can help you? Egg-headed Roger nodded like I'd said something true and wise. I can certainly appreciate that. If there's something that I can appreciate, it's directness. That's what folks are missing these days. Directness. That, along with a direction. I'm a rather direct man myself, he said, though in the middle of disproving the same. So let me get right to it. He bent down and reached into a paper grocery bag, then pulled out a carton of eggs. I'm from the Keystone Cooperative Growers Association, and I would like to offer you these eggs. They're farm fresh and cruelty-free, and it would be my honor and the honor of my fellow growers if you would accept this gift and use these eggs to your own delight. He held out the carton. I took the eggs. Oh. Okay. What is this? A carton of eggs, ma'am. His smile was too wide for his face, and it looked like the gesture was hurting him. Yes, I understand that part. Good, he said. But why are you giving out free eggs? This is just a service we provide to the community. You see, the KCGA, that's our initialism, for brevity's sake. You understand the KCGA's position is that to enjoy a good egg is to enjoy life. We want the whole world to enjoy their lives, which to some degree means we want them to enjoy our eggs, too. Oh. Do you know that a god lives inside of eggs? How's that now? The time will come when the god-filled eggs will feed the sick and the poor until the sick and the poor are no more. That time will be the time of the egg. Everything unborn will be born, and everything dead will be born again. All will fall under the judgment of the many heads. I stared at him. I said, is this a religious thing? I'm not really much of a churchgoer. There will be no more faith when the world's flags are blooded by the many heads. The light of sanctification is kept only inside the egg. I've only ever met one Scientologist. Are you a Scientologist? Well, as I said, it would make all of us at the KCGA just happy as the day is long if you'd only take those eggs and enjoy them for yourself. And with that, I will leave you and wish you a wonderful rest of your evening. Enjoy your eggs and enjoy your life, ma'am. And if you can, enjoy both at once. He turned and sprinted towards the woods. I looked down at my carton of eggs, thinking of L. Ron Hubbard. The KCGA man was half a bubble off plum, and I was undecided as far as eating lunatic produce. I thought I'd mull it over before frying up the man's eggs, but maybe I was being mistrustful. I reminded myself to keep in the habit of having faith in people until they gave me a reason not to. I woke up hungry Saturday morning. Still in my pajamas, I maundered downstairs. I maundered downstairs with the residue of sleep in my eyes. I looked in my refrigerator. There was nothing in there but the KCGA eggs. I picked the egg carton up out of the refrigerator. I put the eggs on the counter next to where the range was built in. I took the salted butter from the fridge and lobbed off a dollop into the skillet. I clicked the gas on the stovetop. The skillet got crackling. I reached for one of the eggs. I picked up the first egg, nice and cold from the fridge. I could feel the weight of albumin and yolk inside the shell. But when I broke open the shell on the edge of the skillet, nothing came out. It felt like one of those rubes a magician calls on stage just to make fun of. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes a tricksy egg for breakfast. I picked up the next one, holding the heft of a shell full of egg. I again split it on the skillet. Naught but nothing, the same as before. There I was, starting to get miffed. I went through the 11 eggs that way. I felt the chicken embryo sloshing around inside every shell. Hell, I know what a full egg feels like. I cracked almost all of them open, empty down to a 1. 1 egg was left. In for a penny, in for a pound. I picked up what I expected to be the last empty egg, except when I cracked this one, something came out. It wasn't the yolk. An egg-shaped human head plopped skittering into the skillet. I had 2 sets of 3 little legs. It had 2 sets of 3 little legs, a set coming out of each side of the head. I screeched, and when the spidery little head hit the skillet and started sizzling, it started screeching too. I took the spatula and flipped the thing onto the counter. It moved its spindly little legs in purposeless panic. Cried like how a baby cries. A tiny little egg-shaped critter half fried on my kitchen counter. I turned off the burner. I had no idea what to do next. The 6-legged head made a wheezing sound, followed by a noise like air being let out of a bicycle tire, and then it was dead. I did not shower or brush my teeth or put real clothes on or do any of the things I'd earlier planned to do. I poured myself 3 fingers of whiskey, grabbed the pack of cigarettes I'd swore off 2 months ago, and parked my ass on my front porch stoop. I sat there until I finished my whiskey and smoked a half-dozen... Oh my God. Parliaments. I sat there until I'd finished my whiskey and smoked a half-dozen parliaments. I tucked my old-fashioned glass behind my derriere when the early risers passed by on their morning stroll. To neighbors who stopped and said they thought I'd quit smoking, I made a gesture of, hey, what can you do? I had some liquid courage to fortify me, so I re-entered my house and went back in my kitchen. The 6-legged head was gone, but there was another egg in its place. This one was about the size of a grapefruit. I figured on driving down the state road to my friend Dustin's. His daddy was a poultryman, so Dustin knew lots about chickens and lots about eggs. I'd loved talking about both. So much so that I'd previously found him duller than watching paint dry. But it's not like I ever told him. I put the big egg in a little grocery bag and hung it on the wall hook while I got ready to see Dustin. By the time I was clean and dressed, there was someone knocking on my door. I went downstairs and opened it to find my old high school boyfriend, Danny. Danny smiled. I smiled back. Hi, Mary. Hi, Mary Ellen. Danny, how's tricks? Well, you know, I'm in town to visit my brother and my new niece. He had a girl this time. Oh, how is good old Early Bird? I said. We used to call Danny's baby brother Early Bird Earl because he was a known fuss budget who'd rather lose a limb than show up at church or school any less than 15 minutes early. His mother used to say that Earl would make sure to be dead and resurrected twice before anyone else knew that the rapture had started. He's being more boring than watching grass grow. Say, I was wondering if I'll get my purse. This was a semi-regular thing. When Danny came back to town, we went out caroling. Carousing. When Danny came back to town, we went out carousing. After trolling roadhouses, we returned to my place to, as I've heard it put, Netflix and chill. I went out the door not a minute later. The grapefruit-sized egg still hung on my wall hook, momentarily forgotten through the call of my lust. My friend Jackie dropped us back off at home. 3 sheets to the wind, 2 blitz to steer the ship, but too old to be stupid enough to drunk drive either. Some call that wisdom. Me and Danny stood under the fading yellow porch lights as it projected the shadows of moths' aerial maneuvers. Danny kept grabbing at me, not in a bad way. I needed to concentrate because the lock kept moving away from my key. Mary Ellen, I turned around and held my fingers up to my lips, trying not to laugh. Shh, I got neighbors. They're late when it sleeps. I mean, Danny, hey, Danny, what do I mean? You mean they're sleeping when you... Danny stumbled back into my wind chime and made a jangle. Shit! I started laughing hysterically. Through catching my breath, I managed to tell Danny that I thought my neighbors probably shat during daylight hours, too. He didn't get it. To be fair, I'm not sure it was a joke. I got the key in the lock and opened the door. Danny grabbed my wrist and stopped me from walking in. Hold on, little lady. It's late at night and the light's not bright. Let me check your homestead, he said, then waggled his eyebrows. I laughed and held one arm towards the door like a girl presenting a game show prize. My hero, you're chivalrous as shit. Danny walked inside. A few steps in, he abruptly stopped. I heard a gurgling sound, then a croaking sound, like when you're in really bad pain but don't have the wind to cry out. Danny just stood there, spasmodically shaking. Danny, what are you doing? I reached inside, and to the left of him, and switched on the vestibule light. I saw why Danny was stock still and gurgling. 2 foot-and-a-half-long barbs punctured his neck and the side of his head as his temple... 2 foot-and-a-half-long barbs punctured his neck and the side of his head at his temple, respectively. There came a thick, quick slushing sound as the barbs slickly slid out of his throat and skull. Danny convulsed as he hit the floor. I stared, unable to move. A half-dozen legs, each like a 7-foot-long bendable stilt, carried forward a massive head the size of a yoga ball. My adrenal glands secreted enough to quickly boot me off my drunk. I put together the sequence in my head. The first egg gave birth to the first tiny head with legs. The first tiny head with legs gave birth to the bigger egg. The bigger egg gave birth to... this! The barb snapped back into the egg-shaped head's mouth. The thing's 6 legs locomoted like a basketball hoop. Oh my God. The thing's 6 legs locomoted like a basketball hoop-high spider crabs. Its height was all long limbs. I screamed. I turned to run. It snared me in one of its crustacean spindles. The appendage was no thicker than a garden hose, but the kinetic strength of the other 5 legs produced an unimpedable force as the 6-legged head flung me like a rag doll across my living room. I hit headfirst into a wall. Everything went black. I woke up in the corner of my living room. The six-legged head was much bigger than before. A proboscis like a livid blood-red bamboo shoot extended from the middle of its forehead down to the ground, where it had punctured Danny's body through the top of his skull. I heard slurping and sucking noises over a sound like a wet, dry shop vac. As it sucked out Danny's brains and guts, the six-legged head metamorphosed. Bulbs of flesh molded on its face. Bones broke and reset to altered curvatures. It was a nightmare claymation, a freakish, Rob-Bottin practical effect. Its face was turning into Danny's. By the time it slurped up all of Danny's insides, the egg's face had completely changed into his. Its proboscis shucked itself free of the swollen puncture in Danny's skull. My date's dead body was shrunken, drained of its every wet drop. The six-legged head noticed me, as if I'd only just appeared. It approached my corner in the gait of a mutated hexapod. Once beside me, it looked down. I looked and saw the top of its head almost touching the ceiling tiles. I from KCGA. The six-legged head spoke in Danny's voice. I started crying. Neighborly is giving eggs. You happiness with eggs. You love eggs. I covered my mouth to blunt, hiccuping sobs, trying not to make noise. It was right there. God, that thing was right there, and Danny's voice. My voice coming from my body startled me. I was floored. Had the six-legged head penetrated my flesh? Had it infected my brain? Was I a host dreaming my parasite's dream? It chittered and got louder. Under Danny's voice was a noisy, burbling sludge like food through a gassy gut. You are happiness inside eggs. Are neighboring happy eggs. Yes. Yes, I'm very happy with the eggs, I managed while bearing down on my weeping. The six-legged head seemed to think this over for a minute. It spoke. Eggs is community. Eggs is neighbors and neighborly. Eggs is friendly and are gooding. You will buy more eggs. Yeah, I'll buy more eggs, I swear. I looked around for my purse. Did I have cash? Is that what it wanted? I could go to the... Oh, I thought of something. I have to go to the bank to get money to pay you, I said. The six-legged head was processing this, and it worked out my proposal. It spoke its thoughts aloud. Bank are money. Money are giving KCGA. KCGA, God of peoples. Egg is KCGA. Money is going to for egg. Egg. Exchange, I said. The six-legged head blew dumb, forced laughter out its mouth like a grade schooler guffawing at a joke about political economy. Its laughter stopped suddenly enough to almost be violent. Eggs are money exchange. Eggs is money. Our money is KCGA. Money is good of peoples. It leaned over me with a stupid but penetrating gaze. Bank are where? I pointed towards the door. In town? Money are bank. I nodded. Yes, the money is in the bank. It bent one of its spidery legs and scratched the necklace underside of its head body. I don't know if it was thinking or having a gesture that it had seen a thinking creature make. You go bank, it said. Yeah, I go bank. It skittered backward a few steps and opened a clear path towards the front door, then turned to look back at me. Eggs is money, and our KCGA God of all people, you are going to bank. I didn't know what he wanted me to do. I didn't move. Go, the head said, with much more loudness and force. I didn't need any more prompting than that. I got to my feet, careful to make no sudden movements. I tiptoed past the six-legged head with a wide berth as I could give. I tiptoed past the six-legged head with as wide a berth as I could give. As soon as I was at my door, I ran. Scene change. When I came back with the police, there was no evidence of... When I came back with the police, there was no evidence any of the things I claimed had happened had actually happened. There was no blood on my living room carpet, no six-legged head, no egg carton on the trash from the KCGA. No Danny's body. Nothing. All of it. Gone. I was warned that I needed to cut back on the sauce. EMS came and checked me out. Asked me how many quarters make up $1 and who the president was. They said that I might have been sauced, but was still plenty lucid. One of the EMTs nodded his head at me sideways while talking to one of the cops. The cop came over and asked me a bunch of questions. They were all roundabout secondary queries. What he was really asking was, are you now or have you ever been a drunken lunatic spinster? The cop decided the answer was probably yes. I sought psychological counseling. You tend not to believe your own eyes when something happens, like what I've presently. Okay. You tend not to believe your own eyes when something happens, like what I precedentingly described. I thought it couldn't hurt. After a week or so, I got a call from Earl asking if I'd seen Danny. I told him we'd gone out. I told him that I told the cops too, and I left it at that. When Earl sees me in the grocery store now, he gets a look on his face like he's smelling shit. Then he turns and he walks the other way. I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to kill me. A month later, there was a carton of eggs waiting at my doorstep. A month later, there was a carton of eggs waiting at my doorstep when I got home from work. There was a note tied to the carton, knotted to it with twine. Enjoy your batch. Enjoy the latest batch. Please remit payment at your convenience. Your friends at the KCG. That's really cool. Also, this guy writes really good, comedy horror. Like, that's really good. A sneeze. Oh, no. Okay, you know what, Goodwin? Let's see what you got. Let's see, baby. Let's see what your latest one is. Ooh. Those are the things I don't want. Okay, late night laundry. I was looking at it a little off the top before. Okay, So I have that one done. Let me go ahead and upload that to my editor before I forget to do it. Because I have done that more than once. Late night laundry are best. Out of season has top votes, but people say late night laundry is one of the people find scarier. Scarier. They find it scary. Okay. Ba -ba -ba. Okay, so that one's going to Matt. No, it's not. I'm fucking stupid. Put it in the wrong folder. Now it's going to Matt. And we have late night laundry. How long is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so what, 40 minutes? Yo, why are you cracking the balls like that? He's not an egg. Yeah, I love that. The kids rhyme Humpty Dumpty. At no point do they ever say he's an egg. That is very true. So let's go ahead and change the story details. Late night laundry. And this is Goodwin, 1990. That's not it at all. What the hell? Okay, so late night laundry. Yeah, this is in place. Okay. Once again, it's your responsibility. Oh, shit. Actually, before I do this, let me talk about this real quick. You guys, if any of you guys listen to CreepyPasta stories as you fall asleep, if you're used to listening to stories as you go to sleep, there is the Manta Sleep Mask, the Manta Sound Sleep Mask, should I say. It's available right now from MantaSleep. It's really great. They're a sponsor of the channel, so they do give me money to say this. I'll straight up tell you, this is a sponsored thing. They give me money to say this, but it is something I actually use. Something that my wife uses, something that my PA uses. They're all really good. If you guys like listening to horror stories as you fall asleep, these are soft Bluetooth speakers that fit over a sleep mask. The sleep mask itself has like these C-cups over your eyes, so it doesn't put pressure on your eyes. It's actually like a healthier option than using any other kind of sleep mask. Also, I mean, hey, if you guys purchase from MantaSleep, then they will give me money. Also, if you use coupon code CreepyPasta, they take 10% off. That was the main reason why I had contacted them when I was like, hey, I want to bring this over to my listeners because I want to be able to give you guys a coupon code. And I had like told them directly, like, I didn't actually need to get paid from it. I just wanted a coupon code to give you. But, you know, they're cool. So they didn't want me doing work for nothing. Yeah, that's the Manta Sleep Mask. I'd put the link in here, but I don't want to. Coupon code CreepyPasta. I don't know. I don't want them to take the sponsorship away. I'll put the link in here. Hang on. MantaSleep. MantaSleep. I'm being like shitty about it. MantaSleep Mask is actually really good. It's something that I actually do use every night. Like I have been using it every night. Really? MantaSleep, please, Manta. I'm going to beat my brains in. MantaSleep. There we go. So they have a lot of other masks also besides just the Sound Sleep Mask. The Sound Sleep Mask is what I suggest because I think like that's like the most related to this channel. There we go. MantaSleep Mask there. It's a Sound Sleep Mask. It's like an expensive mask, mind you, but there are cheaper options as well. There's more affordable options. And the more affordable options, they have the same things. The only thing they don't have is the the Bluetooth speaker. The Bluetooth speaker is like great on this one because if you like listening to creepypasta stories, specifically on this channel or on the podcast, bingo bango, there you go. This right here is a great way of doing so without disturbing anybody you could be sleeping with, like your partner, etc., etc. I didn't even realize this. There's another version of this? Sundown. What's that? What is this? What's the difference? Is it just a color difference? Oh, it is. Oh, well, I mean, the Sundown color is pretty cool. I have the classic. I don't have the Sundown one. I bought mine, too. They didn't give it to me. Although, if you're listening, Manta, and you do want to send me one, I'm open to it, but I bought one myself. But yeah, if you guys are used to sleeping, say, with, like, headphones on or, like, AirPods in your ears, you can actually damage your ears in that way because you're putting pressure on it, blah, blah, blah. This is a safe way and a comfortable way to be able to sleep and listen to stories without disturbing people around you and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, if you guys like that, their coupon code is CreepyPasta. You get 10% off of the 10% off of this, and as well as they give me money. I'm taking a drink of my coffee real quick before I continue. Okay. So this one is Jail Goodwin. Once again, I can't respond to every message. I do see sleeping in them. Now the arm is broken. I've done that to my headphones I use like on this actual recording computer. Stopping it again. This actual recording computer. I've done that 2 times now. I've broken the headphones in that way. And I don't know how. I think it's just wear and tear, generally opening and closing, opening and closing. But, you know. This is one where it's not... I'm not going to say you can't break it, because I'm almost certain you can. The minute I say that you can't break it, somebody else is going to be out there like, I've broken my mask twice. Like, but yeah. I'm not going to say you can't break this. Sure, you can break this. I wouldn't... There's a YouTuber out there, I'm sure, that has gone through the paces of hitting it with a hammer and throwing it off of a roof or something to determine, like, that you can break this if you submerge it in the ocean at 20,000 fathoms. But, this is harder to break than just wearing a pair of headphones. As well as, I think it's just... God, I'm not alone. Yeah. It was harder to break this pair of headphones. It's certainly a lot more comfortable to sleep in than just a pair of headphones as well. So, I think it's worth it. It's worth your money. It's worth your time. Check it out if you like it. If you want to, I guess. This is what I mean. Check it out if you guys want to. If you figure you'd use it. Also, I've said this before. Don't just buy things because YouTubers tell you to buy them. Check it out if you think you'd actually use it. If you wouldn't use it, if you know for a fact you don't like sleeping with something on your eyes or on your face, if you know you don't listen to music or you don't like sounds and shit like that when you're falling asleep, don't buy something like this. Right? Like, it's clear. Like, don't do that. Don't spend money on something if you know that you're not gonna, like, get something out of it, you know? Ex-legendary hero, hey, how's it going, man? Oh, we're just working tonight. Working and yapping. But, yeah. If you guys do like sleeping with sound and with headphones and with an eye mask, try this out. This is worth it for you. Okay, let me actually work. The night was unusually dead along the isolated stretch of the Pacific Northwest coastline, save for the occasional rumble of a shift worker heading south. As if on cue, a single yellowed pair of headlights cut through the darkness as an old pickup rattled past, its exhaust rattling as the driver made their way towards the graveyard shift, the nearby fish processing plant. As the taillights receded into the distance, the silence of the dark 2-lane road returned, absolute and heavy. Standing guard at the edge of the asphalt like a solitary forgotten soldier was a tall, rusty sign, its metal skin corroded so badly from decades of salt air that the original name of the former motel was practically illegible. Behind it sat the apartment building, a crumbling U-shaped relic of the 60s draped in peeling flamingo pink paint. Under the dim yellow glow of the ancient incandescent bulbs hoarded by a landlord too stingy and stubborn to update to LEDs, a thick layer of ground fog was just beginning to roll in from the estuary, hidden just out of sight by the blackness, swallowing the bottom of the structure and abandoned manager's office in a quiet, white shroud. Up on the second-floor walkway, the door to Unit 14 swung open and clicked shut. Evan stood under the light, his shoulders burning with the deep, all-over ache of a 12-hour shift, pouring concrete and lifting 2x4s. Inside the apartment, his girlfriend was long since dead to the world. Sarah was utterly spent from back-to-back bartending shifts, taken on just to help them keep with the soaring rent, car insurance, and electric bill. He'd barely had enough energy himself to shove a cheap Hungry Man meal into the dated refrigerator oven. He'd barely had enough energy himself to shove a cheap Hungry Man meal into the dated refrigerator oven, let alone tackle the chores that the grueling daytime hours wouldn't allow him to tackle in the daytime. Before lifting the heavy laundry basket, he paused and spared a glance down at the watch on his wrist. The hands read 1:45 in the morning. He let out a quiet sigh. It was already clear he wouldn't be getting to bed until close to 3 a.m. Running a hand through his hair, he looked out across the quiet complex. Out of the 21 units in the building, barely half were occupied these days. Today, only a single lonely square of light glowed from behind closed blinds in a bottom-floor window across the way. Everyone else was fast asleep. He leaned against the wooden railing, careful to avoid the splinters, and took a deep breath of the damp coastal air. Down in the parking lot, the painted white lines had long since worn away by time, leaving everyone to park their cars in a chaotic game of musical chairs. Beyond the darkness and over the roof of the building and the woods beyond, the sound of the nocturnal life was out in full force. He listened to the sharp, rhythmic chirp of crickets in the overgrown grass, the distant, mournful cry of an elk far away in the timber. In the opposite direction, further down the coast, came the intermittent blare of the lighthouse's foghorn echoing out over the ocean. After the pandemonium of the construction site, the sounds brought him a fleeting moment of genuine peace. His gaze was brought back down to the ground. Wisp-like tendrils of fog were slowly creeping across the broken asphalt, curling lazily around the tires of the parked cars. Fog. Looks like it's going to be thick tonight. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out his iPod, unwinding the earbuds from around it and pushing them into his ears. Scrolling for a moment, he found a podcast he'd downloaded earlier and pressed play. The blare of the intro music drowning out the sounds of the night. Evan hoisted the plastic basket against his hip and started down the right stairwell, his boots thudding against the rough, tar-skinned stairs. Reaching the bottom, he wound his way past his Ford Expedition and the other cars. Crossing the dark expanse, he stepped over weeds and dandelions that had begun working their way up through the cracks. Careful not to trip on any as he passed the rusted green dumpster that sat directly in front of the central stairwell and steered himself towards the alcove tucked underneath them. Stepping onto the concrete pad, he pulled his keys from his pocket and slid the key into the lock. Turning it, he pushed the door open and stepped inside. The laundry room was pitch black. As he stepped across the threshold, it remained that way, save for the shaft of light falling in from outside the open door and hitting the row of silver mailboxes across the room. Evan let out an exasperated sigh. It'd be too much to ask for Ronald to install motion sensor lights, wouldn't it? Reaching out in the dark, his fingers found the light switch and flipped it up with slightly more force than necessary. The overhead fluorescent lights gave a harsh flicker before snapping fully to life, flooding the room in a sterile white glare that made him squint for a second. Instantly, the wide expanse of old, speckled linoleum floor lay exposed before him. On his left, the vintage, Formica-style table and assorted chairs from half a dozen different thrown-out kitchen sets cast blocky shadows across the room, which against the far right wall, the row of enamel-colored washers and dryers sat, while against the far right wall, the row of enamel-colored washers and dryers sat, silent like cold blocks. The moment the light came on, the fishbowl effect he was used to by now took over. The two small windows at the back of the room and the massive pane of glass at the front, adorned with faded, large white letters spelling out laundry and mailroom, instantly turned into black mirrors, reflecting back nothing but the stark walls, the faded cork bulletin board, and Evan himself, standing still. He couldn't see a single thing outside. The dense silhouette of the Oregon tree line just beyond the rear windows and the unlit two-lane road across the parking lot vanished entirely, leaving him with a sensation that, as much as he was used to, he never liked. It always gave him the sensation that he was performing on a brightly lit stage for an invisible audience. With the podcast still chattering away in his ears, the host having begun their discussion, he hauled his basket to the far end of the room. Opening the lid of the washing machine next to the window, he dumped the load of clothes and underwear inside. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a handful of quarters, and as he fed them into the slide one at a time, the wave of familiar bitterness washed over him. He couldn't help but think about how much of a cheapskate Ronald was. The asshole bleeds us dry every month for rent since he knows we can't afford to move, knows we have to pay our own electricity, and he still makes us pay just to wash our clothes in our own damn building. He shoved the coin slide forward, just like the switch, harder than necessary, and feeling more than hearing the heavy metal clunk through his feet as the old machine started up. Its water valves opening with a hiss sound loud enough to make its way around his earbuds. Knowing he still had a second basket of sheets and towels waiting back upstairs, he decided he'd have a quick late-night smoke out in the courtyard first. Sarah had been out on his ass about quitting for months. But even though he'd agreed it'd be healthier, part of him wasn't able to give that vice up just yet. He turned his back on the room and walked back to the door, hidden in a shallow alcove around a locked closet. Stepping back outside, he paused, just for a moment as the damp, heavy air hit his face, washing away the faint smell of stale detergent and trapped humidity. He dug into his pockets, pulling out the crumpled pack of Marlboros and Zippo. Tapping a cigarette out, he crooked it into the corner of his mouth and flipped the lighter open with a practiced flick of his wrist. He thumbed the wheel, putting a spark shower over the wick, but no flame came. He tried again, harder this time. Nothing. He shook it, then flicked it a third time. When nothing came, he let out a hiss as he realized it had been completely out of fluid. Stupid piece of shit. Frustrated, Evans stopped flicking the wheel and snapped the lighter closed, leaving the smoke in his mouth. As he stood there, the sudden lack of attention on anything directly in front of him allowed his gaze to wander, and his eyes involuntarily drifted to his right. He stopped dead. He was standing right at the mouth of the narrow, vertical gap that separated the two halves of the building, an architectural anomaly he had absolutely hated since the day they'd moved in. Or more appropriately, since the first night he'd come down to do laundry. Under the dim yellow glow of the single light directly over his head, the tight corridor looked like a towering slice of pure blackness. The cheap bulb barely managed to illuminate halfway down the dirt path. Beyond the sharp divide, the space plunged into a heavy, almost suffocating blackness that bled directly into the overgrown backyard and woods beyond. The ground fog had fully arrived now, rolling off the estuary and packing itself tightly into the narrow breezeway, like cotton burying the dirt floor in a ghostly shroud. It looked nothing less than something out of a haunted house. The oppressive gloom of the gap was enough to make him hesitate. Reaching into his pants pocket, Evan pulled out his iPod and hit pause, pulling the right earbud from his ear. He listened. The crickets were still chirping nearby, both in the narrow stretch of grass at the front of the parking lot and in the backyard out of sight. Where the nocturnal birds he'd heard singing their mating calls not even 10 minutes ago had completely vanished. The deep timber was dead silent as well. The distant elk cry had gone silent. The only sounds cutting through the dark coastal night were the sound of the distant foghorn and the lonely shriek of the rusted, long-disused swing set sitting on the black. Of the rusted, long-disused swing set sitting out in the black, fog-covered backyard as the wind swung and pushed them back and forth. Evan felt a sudden cold prickle of sweat break out along his collarbone. He had a fucking grip, he chided himself. He watched too many damn horror movies and listened to too many of those stupid scary story podcasts. But looking down the narrow, mist-choked gap of darkness that seemed more to resemble a throat, his instincts refused to listen to logic. He didn't want to stand there anymore, not for another second. Abandoning the useless lighter, he snatched up the empty basket and walked quickly out of the alcove, heading across the parking lot back to his SUV. If the lighter wouldn't work, he'd just use the dashboard cigarette lighter instead. Internally, though, after looking out into the abyss, he was secretly eager to be inside a locked vehicle, even if only for a few minutes. Reaching the faded hunter green truck, he jammed his keys into the door and pulled up on the handle, tossing the empty basket across the passenger seat and sliding behind the wheel, quickly closing the heavy door and hitting the power lock button. The satisfying mechanical thud of the lock snapped into place, and it made him feel... The satisfying mechanical thud of the locks snapping into place made him let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Leaning forward over the steering wheel, he let his eyes adjust to the dimness of the parking lot and the faint light from the walkways. The fog had grown denser now, turning the air outside into a swirling, ghostly soup. He looked between the shadows of the parked cars. Nothing moved. Across the way, the single square of light on the bottom floor was still fanning out between the blinds. The knowledge that another person was awake somewhere in the complex helped the knot in his stomach finally untie itself. He reached out and pressed the dashboard cigarette lighter into its socket, relaxing back into the cracked leather. Evan couldn't help but crack a faint, tired smile. A brand new expedition wouldn't even have a lighter anymore. But a rig from 1998? Glad I held on to this for more than one reason. As he waited, he pulled the iPod back out of his pocket and hit play again, wanting something to distract him from the silence. The sounds of the hosts filled his ears again, drowning out the stillness of the cab. A moment later, he saw the lighter pop back out, indicating it was ready for use. He pulled it up from its slot and pressed the glowing red coil against the tip for a few seconds, inhaling deeply. He replaced the lighter and pulled the smoke from his lips, blowing a thick cloud of smoke towards the windshield, watching it hit and dissipate against the glass. Outside, the mist swirled in lazy, almost hypnotic patterns under the incandescent lights. Watching the fog mutate in the dark, Evan felt a strange, detached sensation wash over his exhausted mind, as if he were looking out into a waking dream. An old literary quote rose in his mind, something he'd seen plastered across the screen at the start of his favorite movies, John Carpenter's The Fog. An old literary quote rose in his mind. An old literary quote rose in his memory, something he'd seen plastered across the screen at the start of one of his favorite movies, John Carpenter's The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. It was an Edgar Allan Poe. Is all that we see or seem... Oh God. Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? Before he could ponder the thought, a sudden burst of movement across the parking lot shattered his peace. Evan's nerves spiked instantly. His heart slammed against his chest as his eyes locked onto a dark silhouette moving low to the ground, darting through the swirling mist in the center of the parking lot. He pulled out the cigarette from his mouth and leaned over the steering wheel. His eyes strained to make out what it was that his overactive imagination immediately began to conjure up horrific, impossible shapes. Then the shape paused directly in a patch of light. Evan let out a sudden, almost breathless laugh, slouching back into the seat. The cat. Damn black cat. He shook his head, wiping a hand over his face. It was likely just a stray, or from one of the houses further up the road, since none of the other tenants owned a black cat. The creature stopped for a brief second, its small head snapping in his direction as if staring directly through the tinted glass at him, before it turned and darted soundlessly out of sight beneath the central stairwell. Too many damn horror movies. He muttered aloud to the empty truck, a genuine chuckle escaping him this time. Seriously. He took one last long drag of his smoke, completely relaxed now as he pulled out the ashtray and stubbed it out. The jump scare had washed away the lingering, irrational dread of the narrow gap. He was ready to head back upstairs, grab the sheets and towels, get his midnight chore over with. Grabbing the basket, he twisted the handle and hopped out into the night. A few minutes later, Evan descended the steps with the second, heavier basket cradled under his chest. A few minutes later, Evan descended the steps with the second, heavier basket cradled against his chest. He paid the gap no mind this time. His brief refuge in the truck and a laugh at the black cat had broken the superstitious spell of the night. He wanted nothing more than to finish up this final load, and haul it back upstairs, crawl into bed next to Sarah, and then disappear into much-needed sleep. He pushed open the door, the fluorescent light still buzzing away overhead. Pulling his right earbud out, he happily noted the dull silence indicating the clothes had finished its cycle. Hoisting the basket on top of the dryer next to the washer, he wiggled a box of fabric softener sheets out from the side of the basket, popped both doors open, and quickly transferred the wet, heavy lumps into the dryer. He fed another handful of quarters into the slot and slammed the slide home. The old dryer roared to life, a loud, cavernous tumbling sound that masked almost everything else in the room, nearly drowning out the podcast still chattering away in his left ear. Turning back to the basket, he began pulling out the bed sheets and heavy bath towels. He couldn't just dump these in haphazardly. He had to separate them so they could wash evenly and not break the machine. Ronald on my ass for repairs to a machine that likely stopped getting repairs back in 2003. Friggin' thank you. As he was bending over the top loader, carefully wrapping a sheet around the center agitator, he suddenly froze. For a fraction of a second, he'd sworn he heard a distinct sound piece through the heavy roar of the dryer. Something close to his head. Evan stayed bent over the machine. His muscles locked and ached slightly, straining his ears to catch it again. He held his breath, but the noise didn't repeat itself. Shaking his head, he returned to loading the machine, then slammed the heavy lid shut and reached back into his pocket for another handful of change. As he lined up the first quarter on the metal slide, which was cold to the touch, the sound came again. Tap. Evan paused, his hand hovering over the mechanism. He cocked his head to one side, waiting. Silent. He stood there for a moment, staring at the silver metal slider, trying to understand. Almost sounded like a fingernail tapping against something. Then he let out a small huff of air. It had to be the sound of the quarters dropping into the slots, or maybe just the slide itself shifting. He slammed the slide forward, and the machine burst to life with a heavy mechanical clunk and the rush of filling water. With both machines running simultaneously, the sheer volume of sound completely filled every inch of the space, burying even the buzz of the lights beneath it. Feeling insulated by the noise, Evan pushed the sound from his mind and stepped across the linoleum, sinking into one of the chairs around the table, putting the earbud back in and raising the volume as high as it could go. A sudden violent jerk of his chin snapped Evan awake. He blinked against the glare of the lights, his heart doing a panicked flip-flop before he realized where he was. He'd accidentally dozed off in the chair. Okay, we're going to put a scene change in this, Matt. Before a sudden violent jerk of his chin, we're going to put a scene change here. So, let's see. Evan pushed the sound from his mind and stepped across the linoleum, sinking into one of the chairs around the table, putting the earbud back in and raising the volume as high as it could go. Scene change. A sudden violent jerk of his chin snapped Evan awake. He blinked against the glare of the lights, his heart doing a panicked flip-flop before he realized where he was. He'd accidentally dozed off in the chair. He didn't know how long he'd been out, but the world had gone completely quiet. The podcast in his ears had stopped, indicating the track had ended, and the plastic earbuds had slipped out when he'd slumped back, dangling over his side of the chair. The heavy, almost comforting roar and hiss of the washer and dryer were gone as well. Both machines had finished their cycles while he'd slept. The only sounds left in the room were the high-pitched buzz of the overhead lights and the low, heavy rumble of the water heater over by the industrial sink. Evan mentally cursed himself, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Stupid. Way to fuck your neck up, moron. He pulled the now dark iPod from his pocket, quickly wrapping the earbud cord around it and shoving it back into his jeans. He needed to finish up the last dry. Get the hell out of here to his actual bed. He stood, marching across to the dryer and popped open the door. Setting the basket at his feet, he leaned down and began hauling the still warm clothes out, tossing them in a messy pile into it. Tap. He didn't even pause. He kept grabbing handfuls of socks and underwear, absent-mindedly calculating if he could cram the sheets and towels on top of this load once they were dried to bring everything up to the apartment in one oversized load, rather than being forced to make 2 trips. Tap, tap. Evan froze. A bundle of t-shirts clutched in his fists. He slowly straightened his back, his muscles tensed as the hollow quiet of the room pressed against his ears. He stood perfectly still by the machines, listening. Tap. The noise seemed to vibrate through the air, echoing in the largely empty space and seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Evan began looking around the room, his eyes darting past the table, the chairs, the row of mailboxes, trying desperately to pinpoint the source as it came again. For whatever reason, the same heavy, irrational dread he'd felt while staring into the gap rolled back over him, twice as thick, suffocating and cold. He took a slow, hesitant step into the center of the room, the sound of his boots muted against the linoleum. Tap, tap, tap. Evan went rigid, his breath catching in his throat. The acoustic... acoustic? Yeah. The acoustic geometry of the room had finally betrayed its source, and the truth hit him in almost sickening, visceral punch in the guts. It didn't sound like the coin mechanism shifting, nor the machines cooling down. It sounded exactly like a fingernail tapping rhythmically against glass. It was coming from the narrow window next to the washing machine. Feeling his heart slam against his ribs, feeling as though it were forcing its way up into his throat, he slowly turned towards the glass, seeing nothing but his own wide-eyed, pale-looking reflection staring back at him. His chest heaved as his breathing turned shallow and fast. The horrifying reality of the fishbowl layout finally sunk in. While he was completely blind to whatever lay beyond the glass, anyone or anything standing out there could see him with crystal clarity. His rational mind fought hard against the rising panic and terror, instantly pinning the blame on a person. The isolated coastal stretch in nearby town had a known reputation for transient drug-using, unpredictable, desperate... Oh my god, there's so much you said. The isolated coastal stretch in nearby town had a known reputation for transient drug users, unpredictable, desperate, and sometimes violent people who frequently trespassed, looking for shit to steal and pawn to fund their next hit. And they weren't above attacking people to get money either, as much as he didn't want to. Evan forced himself to speak. "Hey, who's out there?" His voice sounded hollow and thin as it echoed in the unnatural stillness of the room. The moment he spoke, the tapping abruptly ceased. Trying to force a tough, aggressive edge into his posture, he took a deep breath and shouted again. "Look, I'm in no fucking mood for games tonight, man. Get the hell out of here before I come out there." Silence stretched for 3 agonizing seconds. Then a heavy double tap vibrated through the room. This time it came from the other rear window. Anger cut through his fear like a serrated blade, but he remained painfully wary. He had no weapon at all. His hands were empty, save for the keys in his pocket. The only other thing that he could use would be one of the chairs, and between the two, he highly doubted some drugged-up junkie would find either one intimidating enough to emscray. And to make matters worse, his cell phone was sitting uselessly up in the apartment on the kitchen counter, charging. I said fuck off! Evan roared, stepping aggressively towards the back windows. He knew he was likely waking up the neighbors closest to the laundry room, but right now he didn't give a damn. In fact, it might be a good thing. "I will bust you up, you piece of shit!" The tapping cut out again. The silence that replaced it was far more suffocating and heavy than it had been before. The seconds ticked by agonizingly slow. After a few more moments, Evan began moving, taking slow, tense steps towards the rear glass, his knuckles white around his keyring. Tap, tap. The sound blasted through the room, coming from the massive front window behind him. Evan spun on his heels, so fast he nearly lost his footing, because the front glass faced the parking lot. He expected the dim yellow glare of the walkway lights to at least show the outline of a person standing on the walkway outside. But the glass was a flawless black mirror, with only the outlines of parked cars beyond. There was no one there. He took a hesitant step back towards the front alcove, his mind racing. Before his boot could even touch the floor a second time, a sharp metallic click stuck the window directly behind his shoulder. Tap! Every muscle in Evan's body froze, like a department store mannequin, his blood turning to ice. The sound had traveled from the front window to the back of the building in less than 2 seconds. No human could realistically have sprinted from the front window, through the gap, and back to the rear window that fast, not without making a sound, not without tearing through the fog like a fucking freight train. The terrifying truth crystallized in his mind, dropping into his stomach like a lead balloon. Whatever was circling the building wasn't a person, and if it was, there were more than one of them in the dark, coordinating their movements. He wasn't sure which one was worse. His primal instincts took over, screaming for him to abandon his clothes, abandon the basket, haul his ass out of there. He didn't give a shit about chores anymore. He just needed to clear the alcove, burst out into the parking lot, sprint either for his truck or the stairs to Sarah and safety. As the tapping started up again, this time striking both rear windows simultaneously, Evan made a decision. He bolted towards the alcove and the exit. Tearing around the edge of the closet, he slammed his weight directly against the metal door, his chest heaving, panic clawing at his throat, and a sudden irrational fear screaming at him that the lock would be jammed. But to his immense relief, the brass handle twisted in his palm. He stopped, his forehead pressed against the cold metal, taking in 2 deep, burning breaths. He braced his heels against the floor, ready to yank the door open and bolt. But his hand froze on the handle. Wait. The thought that came to him was cold and sharp as an ice pick. If someone or something was circling the building, especially if there were 2 of them, one could be standing directly on the other side of the door, waiting for him. Throwing it open blindly could prove to be a fatal mistake. Clutching his keys tightly inside his fist, letting the brass teeth protrude from between his knuckles like a makeshift weapon, Evan braced his shoulder against the door, ready to slam it shut again if necessary. Slowly, painstakingly, he cracked the door open a few inches. Nothing rushed him. The thick, damp air slipped through the gap, smelling heavily of wet pine and the mud flats of the estuary. He opened it a few inches wider, his eyes darting through the crack. The concrete pad was empty. But as he stood there at the threshold, a realization began to hit him, one that sickeningly began to warp the edges of his mind. He waited for the fallout of his actions. The walls of the building were paper thin, to say the least. He had been yelling at the top of his lungs inside an echoing room, inside a hollow, concrete and wood U-shaped building that naturally amplified every noise someone made. If a damn mouse so much as farted, at least one person would hear it. He should be hearing the frustrated rustle of blinds. He should be hearing the angry shouting of an exhausted neighbor telling him to shut the fuck up, or at least a confused voice asking what was going on. There was nothing. Nothing at all. The silence was now a physical weight pressing against every inch of his body. It was as if his voice hadn't traveled past the walls of the laundry room at all. Evan's stomach dropped into a bottomless void. He cast a desperate glance across the misty courtyard toward the bottom floor unit that had given him comfort earlier. The single square of yellow light was gone. The window was a dead black square. The ground fog had completely swallowed the parking lot now, rising to the level of the walkways, and with it, the coastal night had begun stripping of its soul. Rising to the levels of the walkways, and with it, the coastal night had been stripped of its soul. The crickets in the grass had fallen completely, unnaturally dead silent. Even the ceaseless groan of the foghorn had vanished, smothered by a heavy artificial vacuum. Every primal circuit in Evan's brain screamed that he had to get out of the alcove now. Something was very wrong with the world outside the door. He took a slow step outside onto the concrete pad beneath the central stairs. He kept his left hand behind him, refusing to let the door click shut behind him in case he had to dive quickly back inside the brightly lit cage the laundry room had become. He tensed the muscles in his calves, locked his eyes first on the outline of his expedition across the asphalt, then the stairs beyond. He prepared to launch himself into a full, desperate sprint. Then, his body completely betrayed him. Evan went rigid. His brain savagely ordered his legs to begin to move, to run, to scream, to do anything. But it was as if his nervous system were firing blanks. An invisible, crushing pressure slammed down on his shoulders. He felt the terrifying, undeniable sensation of needle-sharp eyes boring directly into the sides of his head. Worse than the phantom eyes, though, was the sudden wet sound that fractured the silence. It was a slow, rattling chest wheeze. The rhythmic, heavy sound of something massive breathing through its nose, drawing the damp fog into its lungs and forcing it back out again in hot, ragged gasps. It was coming from deep inside the pitch-black, vertical gap to his right. Evan didn't want to look. Every survival instinct in his body begged him to keep his gaze locked on the parking lot. But it was as if the sheer, magnetic weight of the horror to his right forced him to slowly turn his head anyway. The dim, yellow, incandescent bulb directly overhead fought valiantly against the encroaching fog and darkness, pushing its weak light halfway down the breezeway. It was just enough to reveal the horrifying fact that the corridor was no longer empty. Standing deep in the vertical slot of darkness was a shape. He was impossibly tall, looming well over Evan's 6-foot frame, and so unnaturally thin it looked like a structural pillar that had melted and warped. There were no glowing Hollywood eyes staring back at him from almost level with the second-floor walkway in the dark, only that wet, rattle-chested vibrating along the wood siding. Evan took the fragments of the nightmare as if in slow motion. His heart felt as if it would explode in his chest and he would die of a heart attack at any moment. Nothing moved in the stillness, then the shape moved. With a janky, violent, spider-like unfolding of limbs, the creature stooped down, its spine snapping and bending at a grotesque angle just to fit beneath the low roof of the alcove. The horror shattered the paralysis that kept him rooted to the spot. His nervous system reeled back to life, and he spun on his heels to sprint out into the courtyard. He'd barely taken 2 running steps before he skidded to a halt, his eyes threatening to pop out of his sockets and his heart stopping. Standing right at the base of the central stairway, barely 10 feet away in the swirling fog, was a second creature. It had seemingly materialized out of the mist itself, an elongated frame already bending down with a terrifying fluids. Its elongated frame already bending down with a terrifying fluid speed to cut off his escape route. For a split second, a stray beam of light caught the wet, slick texture of its face. The brief, alien geometry of it snapped something inside Evan's mind. He didn't scream, he couldn't. He lunged backwards, diving through the slowly closing door to the laundry room, just as the air behind him parted with a violent, rushing whoosh. Evan slammed the door shut, throwing his weight against the metal and twisting the deadbolt just as a massive impact rattled the frame. "Help me! Somebody help me, for God's sake!" he screamed, his voice breaking into a ragged shriek. He knew it was useless. The dead zone had swallowed his yells before, and they were now. Outside, the door groaned on its hinges as it was forced inward. He swore he could hear the metal itself bending under the sudden impossible pressure. Realizing the door wouldn't hold for more than a few seconds, he turned and bolted across the room towards the back of the fishbowl, intending to throw his body straight through the glass of the rear window. He didn't give a fuck about cutting himself. He only cared about escaping the horror that was pursuing him. Slam! Slam! A deafening, aggressive pounding erupted against the very glass he'd intended to leap through, making him skid to a stop inches from his own reflection. The first creature had already doubled back through the gap, anticipating his exact move. Behind him, the door finally gave way with a horrific screech of tearing metal. Evan spun around just in time to see a massive gray hand, tipped with long, razor-sharp nails, reach around the blind corner of the entry alcove. The fingers didn't reach for him, they reached for the wall. Click. The plastic toggle switch was flipped down, and the overhead lights died. The room instantly plunged into an absolute suffocating darkness. The only illumination left was the faint, ghostly light filtering in through the front window of the fog-choked parking lot. In that dim strobe-like haze, Evan watched the impossibly long silhouette of the creature clear the alcove. It moved with a janky, nauseating speed, its limbs unfolding like a starved spider as it rushed across the floor towards him, filling the entire width of the room. The rattle-chested breathing was deafening now, drowning out the frantic, almost mocking tapping that had started up against the glass. Trapped against the cold glass, completely enveloped by the stench of old copper and wet earth, Evan opened his mouth for one final desperate scream. He never got the chance. The dark lunged forward, and the last thing Evan ever knew was pain. Scene change, Matt. Sarah shifted beneath the heavy blankets, pulled from a deep sleep by the faint sound of a voice. Sarah. She grunted softly, burying her face further into the pillow, her body still spent from the double shift. Sarah. Wake up. This time the call was clearer. Her eyelids fluttered open, and she sleepily lifted her head, squinting into the pitch-black bedroom. Through the open doorway, she could see the shape of a man standing in the living room. Behind the dark outline, the front door hung wide open, letting a long wedge of light spill across the living room floor. Evan? She muttered, her voice thick with sleep. What's wrong? A strange, heavy beat of silence stretched into the apartment. Then his voice drifted into the bedroom. It was unmistakably his deep baritone, though for whatever reason, it sounded flat, as if he were speaking through an empty tin can. I'm sorry to wake you. There was an accident downstairs in the laundry room. I need you to come down and help me carry everything up. Sarah rubbed her eyes, her exhausted mind struggling to process his words. Then the horror of their situation clicked. She immediately envisioned one of those ancient, unmaintained washers busting its rusty pipes and flooding the entire laundry room. She thought, a wave of anxiety falling over her. What's Ronald gonna say? Did one of the machines break? She asked, getting up and swinging her legs off the bed. Yeah, the voice replied from the living room. Sarah paused for a moment, her bare feet hovering just above the carpet. There was something odd about the cadence of that single word. The pitch was her boyfriend's, but the timing felt slightly wrong. A fraction of a second too deliberate. She shook her head, chalking it up to her own exhaustion and the stress of whatever mess he was dealing with downstairs. Hurriedly, she grabbed a pair of jeans from the floor and pulled them on, stepping out into the living room. What looked like Evan was waiting for her on the threshold of the front door. As she drew closer, the light flooding over him, and a sudden, inexplicable knot. As she drew closer, the light flooded over him, and a sudden, inexplicable knot formed in her stomach. Something was just off. He was standing completely, unnaturally still. His arms hung straight down at his sides, his shoulders level and without the slight, familiar slouch they usually carried after a long day at work. Even his chest didn't seem to rise or fall. Evan, are you okay? She asked, stepping up to him. You look pale. He didn't answer right away. He just stared blankly at her, his dark eyes unblinking, tracking her face with a terrifying, vacant intensity that made the hair on the back of her neck stand on end. The silence stretched until she almost felt an impulse to step backwards. Then he smiled again. A wide, rigid gesture that didn't quite reach his eyes. I'm fine, Evan said. I just want to get the laundry so we can finally go to bed together. The familiar domestic promise of sleep alleviated her sudden irrational worries. Sarah forced a tired nod, stepping past him and walking out into the second-floor landing as she prepared to head down the stairs. In the moment, her back was turned to him. The thing wearing Evan's shape didn't move to follow her right away. It stood at the threshold. Its unblinking eyes shifted down towards the courtyard and the alcove under the central stairs. Down in the thick fog, the hidden space was now completely dark, the single bulb above the laundry room door having been completely snuffed out. Satisfied, the creature reached out, gripping the handle and pulling the door shut behind it before stepping out into the black of night. Oh my god, my estimate was so close. It was 46 minutes. I did 40 minutes. I think probably after editing it will be 46 minutes. How did that happen twice where I get like... Okay. Hello. Yeah, I'm sorry if the chat doesn't say a lot whenever I'm recording. Are you kidding me? Come on, Jane. 1990. Oh, no. This needs to... Oh my god. Yeah. Okay, so, hello, sweet bean. Yeah. Earlier chat, Doc Barnes, I did not. What'd you say? So, I've never visited the U.S. Oh, Europe, hello. Edit out my overusage is absolute and suffocating when I rewrite this eventually. Hope you enjoyed. This is really good. Yeah, this is like such a slow burn build up and really good creature features. So this is really good. Radioactive, hello. Dreamfinder, hello. Countess, hello. I need to get this organized, so you guys was probably just seeing me messing around with audio there. I need to get this organized and sent over to Matt, so we can have these two up at the end of the week. So there's that creature. Okay. There's that creature feature done. Those are those two. I have my other project. So hopefully you guys have liked those two things that I've had up over the past few days. I did the Invisible Man and the Creature from the Black Lagoon. I have two more of these. We'll see how they go. Hopefully you guys like it. I think that, like, these have been really fun for me to work on. And I've really enjoyed these, like, universal monsters, these classic monsters. I have some other, like, classic monster stories to go through as well, but I haven't had, like, any abridged stories written for them yet. But these have been fun. These have been good. If you guys like them, or if you guys, like, want to see something improved on them or changed about them, please leave a comment on those videos. I think those have been, like, a fun pet project for me to work on. Kind of like those cryptid stories have been before. But yeah, please take a look at the Invisible Man. Please take a look at the Creature from the Black Lagoon. Let me know what you think. And we'll see some other ones of the Mummy and the Wolfman show up a little bit later. Your favorite 50s B horrors? Ecstatic. Yay, glad to see that. I actually really love the original Creature from the Black Lagoon movie as well. I think that's probably one of my favorite films from, like, that era. Because I don't know, something about, like, the creature costume that, like, it's done so well. The gills on the Gillman move and things like that is fun. But it said it right before you started recording. Let's go. Love them. Oh, dude, I'm glad. CreepyPasta movie. Oh my god. I'm glad you'd enjoyed it. The CreepyPasta movie is not my favorite thing that I've worked on. It was a great experience. I think it was a great experience. It was a lot of fun to be able to like be a part of that movie, and I'm really glad that they asked me to be a part of it. It was a lot of fun to be a part of it. Even though I got injured, I didn't know. So I have 2 cameos in that movie. One with my mask on and one with my mask off. And in the one with my mask off, spoiler alert, I'm killed. And when I'm killed, I'm shot twice, and I fall onto a pad that, like, this stunt pad that's on the ground, right? And the actor who plays the guy who kills me, he then, like, beats the shit out of my body, and then, like, realizes that there's a camera that's filming him this entire time, and he runs. Well, when he, like, beats the shit out of my body, he full-on misses the other stunt pad that's on my right that he's supposed to kick, and instead he kicks me right in the fucking shoulder, and it bruises up so bad because he put his full force into this, thinking he was, because he wasn't actually supposed to hit me. Puts his full force into this, it gets me right in the shoulder. It bruises up so bad, and after like we cut on that scene, he comes running back in to help me up. He's like, "I'm so sorry." He was a great guy. It was really cool working on that, especially since I got to do a stunt. But like, oh. All right, I'm gonna throw this to an end screen. If you guys haven't seen the latest things, please check it out. If you guys haven't checked out MantaSleep, please check it out. If you guys haven't, I don't know, whatever else you haven't done today. If you guys haven't drank water today, if you guys haven't had a cup of coffee to wake you up, do that. If you guys have not tested out today's root beer, try out a Barks root beer. Have a good night, you guys. I hope you all enjoyed stream, and these are going to go to editing now. Goodbye.